Hello and welcome to the ManageIQ Sprint 176 review. We did our last one last week because of Thanksgiving holiday, and we're trying to return back to our normal cadence. So as usual, I'll provide the overview. Kavya will update us on the UI, Adam on the providers, Jason on the platform, and the API. These last 2 weeks, we only had 69 pull requests merged. Considering that it had a Thanksgiving break in it, that's not a bad drop. So I expect things to return back to normal in the next sprint. In terms of the breakdown, 26 were enhancements, 13 were bug fixes, and 11 were refactoring, and 7 were tech debt. And with that, I will turn it over to Kavya.
Thanks, Oleg. This week, total 11 PRs got merged in UI repo, 2 bugs, 5 enhancements, and so on. Next slide, please. Adam refactored descendants.select call to use support feature mixin called provider supports. It is being done in host aggregates and key pair models. This was that was first PR in slide, which caused second issue that is also present in screenshots. Fixed that issue as well. Next one. Gilbert converted orchestration stack copy form to Carbon React. Next one. Jeffrey converted saved reports data tables to React. He also removed redundant views to show same information. So after this PR, table has only like hybrid view and filter view. Before it has 4 views. Next one. Gilbert also converted Ansible repository form to Carbon React. This is an enhancement. AutoSD team contributed to this one. Now when creating a volume mapping, the user can now either map to a host initiator as before or to a group as well. Next one. These are last 2 PRs we raised to remove Patternfly React package completely from our code. So all React code is in Carbon React now. And yeah, I think that's all from UI. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Kavya. So this sprint, the AutoSD team allowed for targeted refresh of physical storage and cloud volume objects. This is a little bit of a holdover from the old way that we did targeted refresh. It can probably be cleaned up in the future, but this just lets you pass an active record object for these 2 types of models to targeted refresh, and it'll make its way to the back end. We also added inventory collections for the new storage manager types. There were a bunch, basically all the new host aggregate groups. All of those collections were added to the AutoSD plugin. Now they've been moved to the core storage manager provider so that any other subclass would be able to use them. We removed some duplicate methods for targeted refresh. Essentially, a lot of the mechanics for figuring out what the targets were essentially copied and pasted, duplicated in each of the providers that had targeted refresh support. So I moved all those up to core and refactored all the plugins so that they use the methods from core as opposed to duplicating them. So that got us a lot of nice deletes. I also added a region class to core. So in addition to the targeted refresh duplication, there was a lot of duplication for region handling. So now core will allow you to specify regions in a YAML file automatically, and also moves the handling for adding additional regions to in settings as well as disabling regions. All of that is handled in core now. We also extended the timeout when destroying an EMS. It was previously 10 minutes and it was seen to time out for rather large providers. So we extended this for an hour. This is just a placeholder until we can get some better handling and a better handle on why it takes so long to destroy an EMS with Cascade Destroy. Next slide. AutoSD added the ability to create host initiator groups in the provider plugin. There's also a UI change as well that goes with this. They allow for volume mapping for the host initiator group. So you can take your host initiator group and map volumes to it. And and also added targeted refresh support for cloud volumes and physical storages. And I improved the targeted refresh specs to ensure that we're getting good coverage of the targeted refresh path. Jay added an event catcher for the IBM Cloud Power Virtual Servers provider. The Power VS API has their own event handling, and so he added code to catch events, added code event handlers to manage queue content, and so the entire end-to-end catch an event for a provision VM and kick a targeted refresh off is now fully automated, which is awesome. The HMC team added 3 different types of collection to the inventory collection. They're pulling in host Ethernet adapters. They're also pulling in templates and virtual switches and LANs. Next slide. Overt was just a lot of bugs this sprint, so we found that the default API verification was always succeeding, and also the metrics API was always succeeding without even checking it. So the issue was when we refactored to use DDF forms, the key names for the parameters that were coming down were different. And so there was logic in Overt to say, if I don't see a key that I'm expecting to see, that means that the data wasn't passed and just returned true. Problem was it was looking for the wrong keys, and so it was returning true in all cases. So we fixed that up. We also found that the Overt metrics gem had some overrides for some core Rails methods that were different on Rails 6, and so Overt metrics was failing to connect now that we've upgraded to Rails 6, and so we also fixed that up in the Overt metrics gem. For VMware, we got a community bug where due to some permissions issues, there were no distributed virtual switches being returned, but we were getting the DB port groups. So this was causing failures because we expect to be able to link a LAN to a switch. And so just preemptively, we added code to skip any DB port groups that are missing a DB switch because there's something wrong that's not going to work. And that's it for providers. Over to Jason.
Okay. On the platform side, as Adam said, he added the extension of the timeout for destroying an EMS. On the bugs, the DALI gem, which is what we use to connect to Memcache internally, was upgraded to 3.1, and they introduced a breaking change in 3.1. So for now, we've locked down to 3.0, and Joe is looking into what it will take to get us upgraded to 3.1. And as Adam said, with the Overt metrics gem, there was a fix to pass in the connection when initializing it on Rails 6, and that was the fix he just talked about. On the refactoring side, Keenan added a change to support Ruby 3. As we find these, we've been knocking them down so we can get Ruby 3 support, and this was one of the ones that he found. And finally, he added a really good refactoring to extract a method called subclasses. I think it's a typo. Subclasses supporting. It changes the ergonomics of how we do the support feature mixin in a really nice way. And hopefully we can clean up some of that code around supports feature. Next slide, please. On the API side, Keenan fixed a bug where error responses for some responses did not have hrefs. So here's an example response where 2 compliances are being returned, one that was successful and one that was a failure. In the failure case, the href line was missing. So there was really no way to know which one failed unless you dug into the message. This happened because of an earlier refactoring. And now that's been fixed, and it should handle all cases that were broken by that refactoring. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next sprint review is planned for 2 weeks from today. If we have enough people in-house, we will do it on December 22nd. If not, we will postpone it until the new year, being that that's the week of Christmas. And with that, I would like to thank the speakers, the contributors, and the entire ManageAQ community, and hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.